Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. We're going way back to 1988. Starrcade, Luger, Flair. I'm excited for this one, but first of all, Jeff, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You know, post Christmas at this point, staring at the new year. We got that coming up, and so new year of wrestling. Whole lot of, boy, I feel like it's going to be a crazy start to the year with wrestling with some of these new promotions and contracts and all that other stuff. So we'll just see what happens.
How did you stumble upon this match?
Yeah, so this was I always throw a Starrcade match in kind of at the end of the year. That was, of course, I was watching the kind of intro video to this before we were getting, or as we were getting set up, and it was like, this is the Super Bowl of wrestling, which of course, and so which for NWA, WCW, like this was at this time, and so this is just one of those where you know, I always enjoy a good Luger match too, like Flair's Flair. You get what you should get, you know what you're kind of looking forward to. But this was a long match. It was the end of the year. It was for the belt, like a little bit of good story here. So there was some good stuff happening.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to cover this one. We got a lot to talk about. I know this is a well-regarded match, one of Luger's better matches in his career. So, and tough to think he's going to have a bad match with Flair. So I'm pumped to get into this. If you are.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right. So we're back at Starrcade, 1988. And, you know, it's interesting because we're trying to position this as the Super Bowl of wrestling, right? But I've also heard Eric Bischoff say that Halloween Havoc was the pay-per-view that they put the most emphasis on. So I feel like in some ways this was never, like, you knew what WrestleMania was. But I always felt like this was like, it's almost going there, but we're also going to, Great American Bash is also going to be big. And then it was Halloween Havoc. And I never felt like, you know, the old Big Four, and then, you know, initially with just WrestleMania, but I never felt like they truly went all in, even during the Attitude Era. Sometimes I felt like, again, there wasn't like, not everything built to Starrcade. It was just another pay-per-view. I know that the Sting thing in 97, but I just feel like in hindsight, I would have just gone more all in with like everything building to this culmination of the year end. Did you see what the tagline for this one was?
I don't remember it offhand.
True Grit.
Oh
Grit
boy.
had
Yeah.
2 T's in it. So December 26th, 1988. We're at Jeff, a place you and I have been. Norfolk, Virginia, at the Norfolk Scope. We had 10,000 in attendance for this one. And, you know, again, big time fight feel to this one. It's interesting how they did this. I'll get to it at the end, but I don't know if you, I'm sure you looked at the card, but this show actually ended with a battle royal for $50,000 that Junkyard Dog won by last eliminating Abdullah the Butcher. So I don't know if they were trying to end it with you know, something big, or how they did it for the live crowd. So we start off at the Varsity Club. This is Kevin Sullivan and Steve Williams defeating the Fantastics of Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. They're going to win the NWA US Tag Team Championships. I remember as a kid, Jeff, I used to watch WCW and be so confused Now, every title on this show was an NWA title. But at one point, you had like the NWA titles, the WCW titles. There was like the NWA World Heavyweight, then the WCW, then there was like an international title. I always found it very confusing. And I feel like even now AEW is doing some of that too, where it's like you just confuse people and water down your titles. So I don't know. I just always it makes it hard to watch, right? When it's like, okay, was this more important or less important? US title, TV title, international title, NWA. And I know NWA always made sense for NWA. As a kid watching it, I'm like, what in the hell's the NWA? And how's that different than WCW? I don't know. So Midnight Express are going to defeat the original Midnight Express. So Jim Cornette's with the Midnight Express. Paulie Dangerously's with the original Midnight Express. So they go 17 minutes. The Russian Assassins are going to defeat Junkyard Dog and Ivan Koloff in 6 minutes. Rick Steiner is going to defeat Mike Rotunda to win the NWA World Television Championship in 18 minutes. Barry Windham is going to defeat Bam Bam Bigelow by countout in 16 minutes for the NWA US Heavyweight Championship. I actually didn't know Bam Bam was in here at this point. Sting and Dusty Rhodes are going to defeat the Road Warriors not to win. They're going to win by DQ in the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Then you're right. I mean, you're shaking your head. It's crazy.
I know, yeah, because it's just weird, yeah.
Then our main event, Flair, Luger for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So a lot of titles. Curious how we get to Flair Luger. I know this was part of a bigger rivalry. So how do we get to this match?
Yeah, so Starrcade, of course, taking place December 26, 1988. So we're at the end of 1988. But we got to go back actually to the beginning of 1988 on this one. You had Luger and actually Barry Windham. They were together a little bit down in the Florida territories. They became a tag team called the Twin Towers. They had a match back in early February and into March at Clash of Champions, actually the first one, defeating Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. And so this is all like back in March is when you started to kind of get these seeds planted, where he was, dealing a little bit with some of the Four Horsemen. Well, about a week or two after that, Windham actually turned on Luger, joined his Luger had been a part of the Four Horsemen. So now you've got Windham kind of joining the Four Horsemen and kind of working with them. And so, it was actually after it was the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. Luger actually teamed with Sting on that one. They won the tournament and ended up beating Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Because of all of that, Luger decided to challenge the leader of the Four Horsemen, as we know, to be Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. That match was going to take place at the Great American Bash in July. But what you had happen was... which is actually June and then July for Clash of Champions 2 and then Great American Bash. But you had kayfabe Lex Luger getting attacked in the parking lot, the match getting stopped as well, too. There was a weird Maryland State Athletic Commission stopping it because Luger had gotten a cut, so he couldn't do this anymore. So this was really the culmination of some DQ finishes, some kind of false finishes, some not matches happening finishes to get us to this match. Kind of makes sense, but it had been a long build where Luger worked through the Horsemen, really kind of taking them on, and then to get to Ric Flair at the end of this 1988.
Got it. Makes sense. And I'm pumped to cover this one, man. Should be a really good match. You ready?
Yeah, I am too. I think this should be very exciting. Yep.
All right. So Starrcade, 1988, season 6, episode 1. Kind of hard to believe this is the 6th one of these, and it's only it's 88. So
yeah,
started these early, man. I know I'm such a WWE mark. I think everything in wrestling starts with WrestleMania 1, but
all right.
That's my frame of reference. So, Starrcade 1998, season 6, episode 1, 88. We're at the 2 hour and 9 minute mark. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
It's going to help him, and it's going to make him stay longer too.
Endurance.
Yeah, the endurance factor that he's not going to be so heavy. He's a
fighting
machine.
Shivani just been on commentary forever.
I think the champion.
It just sounds like a baby in this one. Yeah, that looks the old NWA ring skirt looks interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just say this. I know I say this frequently, but like, man, so this is 88. Okay, this is just, remember, this is around like the time of WrestleMania 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're kind of in that range, right? Look at the lighting. Like, look at the way the arena's lit up. They've got like temporary light stands in there. The crowd's dark. I mean, it's just the production value. That's where it's like you just forget how good the production value of WWE has always been, but just compared to like different eras. I mean, like the lights are just kind of blaring into the camera. This obviously it's a temporary light stand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus like a WrestleMania,
it's all blacked
4.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus like a WrestleMania 4 that was just so bright and vivid. That was the first of the two at Trump Plaza, but it was just light. I mean, compare this to like Savage, DiBiase WrestleMania 4, because I just saw a clip. I think you and I may have sent you a clip of it.
Yeah, we were talking about it.
Yeah, you just compare it to the difference. So, anyways.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was looking. I did a little bit of background on this. That Norfolk was a big city for NWA. I was looking at kind of what they had hosted. Of course, this was the first big show, Starrcade '88, but they also had Starrcade 1991. They had World War III in '95 and '96, which of course was the 3-ring setup that nobody liked. But because of me kind of looking into all this, I actually have some trivia for you. Are you ready? It's been a while since we've gotten into some trivia. So
let's go.
What Degeneration X moment? What the kind of memorable?
Oh, come on.
All right.
That's an easy one.
This was, of course, when they Degeneration X drove the Jeep right up to the doors of the Scope and started knocking when WCW was being taped. Yeah, this was the venue. Yep.
All right, so Flair's on the outside. I mean, Flair just looks like $1 million here.
You figure in his prime right now, like, had been living the life, like it just still is. But Luger looks good too. Like, Sean, I don't know who that is in the crowd, but yeah.
Looks like someone important. He's wearing a suit and waving at the TV.
Yep.
Hey, what did you think of the Saturday night main event production? They kind of did like the old school.
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
What did you think of that?
I liked I appreciated the attention to detail, because even the little things like the referees wearing the blue and ties, or bow tie. Like, I thought that was, when they did that, I thought that was right out of the gate. I kind of felt like, okay, like they're treating this well. They're giving this the respect it should. If the rumors are to be believed, we're getting 4 Saturday night main events a year, which I think is great. I don't know. I struggle with like kind of where do you slot it in regards to it's not a premium live event necessarily. Like, and now we're getting into some tiers of these things. So I'm wondering if that's like thinking out loud here, if that's what we're going to start seeing in the future. Like tier 1 is going to be the big 5, but then tier 2 is maybe going to be these other shows. Like, maybe it is Hell in a Cell or something like that. And then tier 3 is these like Saturday main events or the throwbacks on NXT. I say this because with the changing streaming landscape, are we going to start getting charged for different tiers of things? So I'm wondering, is that going to be a thing? Now, if not, I think it's great. It is one of those shows where they did give it a little bit of stakes as well too. You didn't necessarily know where everything is going, which I thought was good. The presentation itself was great. Like I think you've got the right people that and we've said it, like they print money when they start dealing in the nostalgia, and that is one way that they can print money. I do wonder, like, if they had done Saturday Night Main Event, like that would have been like one of the first shows when they switch over to Netflix, like, you know, how many more eyes? Like, I'm really interested to see those first kind of streaming numbers, because you figure Royal Rumble is going to be the first big one. And so, but I'm all for them doing some of these, I love it. Like the kind of throwback, callback shows to past. Yeah.
Two things. First of all, and I have not seen this, is the plan that all of these Saturday Night Men events will have an old school feel? My assumption is yes, because Jesse Ventura's signed for them. So he said he's going to do all of them, all 4 per year. So my guess is they're going to keep it kind of old school. But have you heard anything?
I have no idea. Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, I know they have Ventura. So I'm just wondering, was it a one-time nostalgia thing, or are all 4 of them going to have that nostalgia feel? I don't know. Curious. The other thing, did you see, and I don't think I sent it to you, but it was just somebody on Twitter that was like, oh yeah, streaming's great. Like, I'm saving so much money. And then he walked through, YouTube TV's now 90. Then you go through everything and you're spending $250 for streaming services.
Yeah, I know. And so it was interesting because I don't know if you saw, I don't think I sent it to you, but it was actually, I think, last week or this week. Conan, came out actually and said he was underwhelmed, is how he put it. They didn't do any promos, they didn't do any run-ins, they didn't do anything that would make you want to see. Like, if you were a new viewer and you hadn't seen it in a while, anything that would make you want to see Raw, maybe they're saving everything for Netflix. But I was very underwhelmed
with Saturday Night's Main Event.
Yes, with that show.
Well. Yeah, okay. Here's I don't know if this plays into it or not, but you have to remember Saturday Night's Main Event, NBC, NBC USA, SmackDown, right? That's one TV deal. Then the other is Netflix. Like, they're competitors. So you can't be on NBC Saturday night saying, hey, we're building the Netflix, and The Rock's going to be on, John Cena's going to be on Netflix. All these guys are going to be on Netflix, but you can't see them tonight, but tune into Netflix. I don't think you can do that. So I think that's kind of like, wrestling podcast Twitter take, and that's cute, but I don't think that's like applicable to the real world with business. Because again,
it's not based in reality. Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Be like, hey, you guys remember The Rock? Yeah, he's going to be on Netflix on January 6th. Tune in then.
Right.
Wait a second here. So I just don't. I don't think you can do that. I mean, I don't think you could have much continuity. I think you just had to have a card, and plus, I also think in this day and age, people can connect the dots. Right. So, I really enjoyed that Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens match. And I saw it on Netflix that, Raw starts January 6th. I should tune in and watch it. I think people are going to, it's not like people are going to watch Saturday Night's Main Event and go, well, how do I consume this content moving forward? So I think a, 55 or 60-year-old guy, doesn't understand. I think there's some logic being applied to, the TV landscape the way it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think so. I've even confused myself and sort of cleared up. You made the comment. So Peacock is still going to have some events.
So so WWE Network was a thing, and
yes.
NBC, when they launched Peacock, came along and said, hey, we want your content on Peacock. Peacock is only in the United States. So the WWE Network continued to operate where it was already operating globally. The US WWE Network went away. It ceased to exist, and all of the content made its way onto Peacock. So you still had the WWE Network globally, and then in the US, just the US, you had Peacock. Now, Netflix comes along and gets Raw, and they sold all of the content on the network internationally to Netflix. So if you're a Netflix user in Europe starting January 1st, you don't need WWE Network anymore. You're just going to be on Netflix. The US Peacock deal does not end until the end of 2025. So for 2025, US continue on Peacock. Now, what happens in 2026? We don't know. You would assume Netflix. You'd assume that a deal is already in place, and it just hasn't been, announced or publicized. But who knows? I will say that the Netflix thing's interesting because I know it's like an insane deal, right? I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know if they necessarily maximized how many dollars they could receive in this deal, but it's the biggest platform. I mean, if you look at Peacock's in the US, I want to say it's like a third of Netflix subscribers. I think it's under half. So what WWE may have lost in terms of revenue, they gained in terms of viewership. Everybody, you don't know anyone that doesn't have Netflix. So literally everything that WWE does, I mean, except for SmackDown and Saturday Night's Main Event, everything is now free. And everything is now available. So I would imagine the amount of eyeballs on Raw and then on WrestleMania and Royal Rumble, massive all over the world. So now, and I'll tell you what this is really bad news for. It's really bad news if you want to attend an event. The prices of these tickets in the foreseeable future is going to be insane.
So that's actually what I was looking up. It was interesting because you said free on Netflix. It's outside of the subscription. And I was curious. So they have announced the next Saturday night, which has been a good match so far. You got some technical work going down on the mat. There's a lot happening.
Really good match. And Luger just looks so good, man.
Yeah, he does look great out there. But what we're looking at here, so I pulled up the next Saturday night main event. It's January 25th. It's actually the Saturday before Royal Rumble. So we're going to get 2 premium shows in a row here. It's in San Antonio at the Frost Bank Center. It looks like it's a fairly normal big setup. I know, like you and I, like where I've seen you on camera, kind of that if you're looking up the ramp on that right hand side, there is a 5th row, the seat on the aisle. So it is that seat right there. It is currently going for $1,600 on Ticketmaster. And then 2 rows back though, so you're looking at like the 7th row is $979. That's before any fees. That's before anything else. Now, we could sit up in the nosebleeds, so the literal last row, opposite camera side, $74. Like there is, I don't know, and we've seen it. I don't think enough people aren't talking about the fact that being priced out of going to a show live is absolutely real. And I don't know what the inflation is there. I don't know what happened. You and I used to be able to get a ticket the day of for a pay-per-view. I don't know what happened.
So this is for everything. It's for concerts. It's for everything. I have no idea. I have no theory on this. And it shouldn't. It's supply and demand. There's just more people that want to go. I mean, they wouldn't be charging these prices and they wouldn't be getting them on the secondary market if the demand wasn't there. So it's not like, inflation, cost of eggs goes up. That's one thing. Tickets is going to be supply and demand. If nobody wanted to go to these things, the prices wouldn't be able to hold. They're absolutely getting the prices. It is insane. But, and the thing is, you go, it's not going to be affordable to go to a wrestling show anymore. Is it affordable to go to an NFL game? I mean, I'm not paying, maybe once every couple years, you pay a couple $100, you go see your favorite team playing a game at in Vegas or on the road or whatever. Okay. I get that. But like, I mean, everything, Taylor Swift tickets are exponentially higher than wrestling tickets.
Everything. Yep.
Everything. I mean, you know this. Again, I know it was a while ago, but I mean, I sat on the floor at WrestleMania for $100, $125, right?
Yep.
So it has just gotten insane. But I think it's just more popular. There's more people that want to go to these things. Will it last forever? I don't know. But for the foreseeable future, if you want to go to a show, it's just going to cost you a fortune. And, I mean, it's becoming the same that I feel about, NFL or even a big college football game or probably NBA too, right? NHL, it just ain't worth going. And I hate saying that. But I think, my advice, just having been to enough of these wrestling shows is, you're especially for like the big arena shows or, the big stadium shows, I think you're just better off being in the building, enjoying it.
Yep.
But, buying the $100 seat up there, watching, the matches on the big screen and you're in the building and you're going to feel the vibe. And, if there's a big surprise and the glass breaks or the Rock's music hits, you're going to feel the energy of it, but you ain't giving them a high five probably. No. You're not, and that's okay. But I think what my point is like, you're better off just accepting that than like trying to fight it and going, okay, I really don't want to spend, and I'm probably not too far off on this. I really don't want to spend $250, but I will spend $250. The problem is $250 is not getting you, on the aisle on TV. $250 is getting you 60 rows back on the floor, so you can't see a damn thing. So you might as well sit a little higher, maybe even have a better view, save $150 and watch it on the screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I figured too, like, where's the discrepancy? Because I'm sure you saw the article recently too that said AEW has reduced down to 2,000, 3,000 person arenas versus these 10, 15,000 because they can't fill them. It does.
Well, and their product is just ice cold right now. And no one, and people that love AEW don't want to admit it. It's data. Okay. Like you can love TNA, but TNA isn't filling the Texas Rangers baseball stadium either. It's so like you can love something, but you don't defend it. I mean, it's ice cold. Okay. There's a lot of people like you and I that tuned in at the beginning. Hey, they got Chris Jericho, and let me check out the Young Bucks, and maybe I've seen a Kenny Omega match before, but I'm curious about him. And oh, damn, Mox is coming in, and hey, Cody Rhodes, he's doing some greats. And you get into it, and then it was just like, okay, it just kind of fizzled out, and it's ice cold. So yeah, they got to go back to smaller venues, but man, the optics of the smaller venues. Now it's how is AEW different than Ring of Honor if they're in smaller venues and it's great wrestling and storylines are here and there. And I guess Rampage just got canceled. Was that the Friday night show?
Yeah, it will no longer be they're no longer taping anymore.
So what? Yep. So Dynamite's Wednesday, and then what's Saturday? Collision. And that's still the thing?
Yeah. And then
you got Wednesday, you got Saturday. I mean, who the hell wants to watch wrestling on Saturday night? I mean, every week, 4 times a year, Saturday night's main event, pay-per-views, I get, but like weekly Saturday, that's got to be a tough spot.
Well, and luckily I rely on my friend Kat, her and her husband, like they love AEW, and okay. And so I haven't asked her like the technical question of like, hey, I'm a WWE mark. I know you're an AEW mark. Like, what is not taking you to the WWE product? Now, she follows it a little bit. Like, if there's a big show, she'll send me something. Like, but for the most part, we're up on the top rope now here. Flair or Luger going for the superplex. Yep. Oh, and getting it. Yep.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, like I don't know what is drag. I'm not interested in some of those storylines. I thought the perfect encapsulation. I know I sent it to you was they just did Hammerstein Ballroom, as we know, and they're like the ECW would be rolling over in their grave if they could see this shit. Like, just because of just what they did to taunt or to taint the legacy of ECW in those in that arena. But the perfect encapsulation, I mean, is Ricochet is AEW wouldn't exist with me, and this is going to be my salvation, and I'm going to go over there, and like the Japan cult, like the nature there's to throw the streamers, like the paper streamers into the ring. They're throwing freaking toilet paper into the ring at this guy, like, dude, like. That's got to, like, you got to walk backstage and feel real shitty after that. Like, that's incredible. The fans, like, we've heard it in WWE, the fans will tell you what they like and they don't like. And boy, they are telling you pretty clearly what they do not like.
And I mean, is he getting heel heat or is it like X-Pac heat? Like, people just don't like the guy?
Yes, I think that's it.
Okay.
Like his flaws like are being shown pretty clearly. Like, he's not good on the mic. He's great. He's
terrible on the mic. They gave him a promo not long ago, like maybe in the last year. WWE did, dude. It was. I mean, I'm like, what are you gonna do with this guy? I mean, and I mean, give him a manager. I mean, I don't know what else you can. I mean. Maybe you could have thrown him in a tag team. I don't know. I mean, I think he was in one with like Braun Strowman at one point, but it just did not. I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, it was like Steve Blackman on the microphone. I mean, it no chance. I will tell you, and I don't know if it was him or it was a different match. I mean, this gymnastics stuff, it is so bad. I mean, it is so fake. I mean, the whole point, like, okay, like take this match that we're watching right now, for instance, right? Like, okay, yes, it's a work, but like you're watching it and you're like, okay, these guys are going to go a half hour. They haven't really stopped. Ton of near falls. They don't like each other. You can lose yourself in this match. Jeff, I cannot lose myself in a gymnastics meet where guys are like flipping and not selling anything, and it's so choreographed, it's not real. So it's not, and I think sometimes people mix up two things. They mix up high spots with gymnastics.
Yep.
High spots, fine. You want to fly around, you want to do lucha stuff, you want to do big moves. Okay, that's one thing. It's another thing where you're doing these sequences that are so over the top fake that like you're like, this is dumb. I mean, you can do sequences. RVD and Jerry Lynn used to do them in ECW. And you're like, these two are going to kill each other here in a couple minutes. Right? I mean, it fit differently. This match, by the way, is really good. So Flair
he's really been working Flair for a while here. The crowd definitely into it here. There was a little bit there, Flair getting some heel heat against the ref and stuff like that. There's been a big press there.
And I mean, it still happens, but like I used to love in the 80s when like you see both guys, their hair's all sweaty and stuff. Like this looks real, right? Like it's just like there's just a legitimacy to it.
Yep. Yeah. So here we go. Here comes the shenanigans. Yep.
It was interesting. I was looking at Luger's matches. I mean, after WCW closed in 2001, I mean, he only wrestled a couple matches. I mean, Cage Match has 3 listed, with the final one in 2005, just a small little thing with Tracy Smothers. He did a match in TNA that, believe it or not, I went back this morning and watched. He didn't look good. He looked really old at that point. I mean, I think may have, had some physical issues and steroids and everything else, but
It's funny you talked about going back and watching random match, and I've been doing the same thing. And I don't know if you realized recently that Peacock added like on the main page where you can delete some of your watch history or like the up next, and so you can delete it. And I had way more wrestling. And I was like, boy, we watch a lot of wrestling. Like, there's so many different shows on there that we watch part of it and then it stays in the watch history. Like, it's just funny to me to kind of see like just how much we did it. So you had Flair hitting him with the chair just on the outside of the ring, and so now Flair's working over the leg on Luger. Yep.
So if you go through all of Luger's best matches, his two best singles matches were against Flair. This match, and there was one other one 2 years later that also had 4.5 stars. But is
this a cage match stars or is this Meltzer stars?
Meltzer.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so two Flair matches. There was a Luger and Sting versus the Steiner brothers in '91. That might be a good one to go back and watch. Luger Steamboat. So
yeah, really good. So it looks like everybody's really glued to it too. It's interesting, and it's such a different time too because you can see all the crowds kind of sitting there. There's no kind of solid barrier, so they look that much closer, which I think is fun. Yeah.
Well, that's why it's funny. That's why like some of like the Meltzer ratings. I mean, again, and I know it's just one guy's opinion, but it's like sometimes the stuff that he doesn't like or rate low, like the fans are completely into. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like if 15,000 people were into it.
That's that, yeah.
Right? All right, so
yeah, some of this
Flair's got him in the figure 4.
Luger trying to work through it. Yep.
Just who is your 2024 wrestling MVP?
Oh boy. Well, yeah, we should do this. Yeah.
And I'll give you mine first. It's incredibly boring. It's Cody Rhodes. I mean, I think just that WrestleMania match in the build and everything with Roman was so damn good. I mean, he's just a lot of great matches throughout the year. He's just a huge star, this huge baby face, sell a ton of merch, carry the company on your back. I mean, in the history of the WWE, there's like under 10 guys that have ever been able to do this successfully. So there's not a lot of, sometimes in the moment, it's like, oh, Cody, his match, Crown Jewel wasn't that good. Or, I mean, dude, what he's doing right now, again, being the guy as a baby face, it's really hard. It's easy to be a heel. I think like, being like Gunther and having great matches as a heel and winning and coming out on top, that's easy to do. What's really hard, and even Reigns, I mean, Reigns' reign was incredible, but being the cheating heel and coming out victorious and people booing for you, that's a hell of a lot easier than getting them to be on your side. Like the fans haven't turned on Cody. They still love him. He's selling a ton of merch, like just old school baby face. I think that is so hard to do, especially with how cynical and annoying wrestling fans are. So props to him. He's my MVP. Who do you have?
Yeah, it's hard not to say Cody. I'd say just to kind of pick somebody different. Like Roman was like the Roman storyline is incredible, but I wouldn't necessarily put him as my MVP. I think CM Punk, like we haven't seen enough in the ring, and so like I think that he could get there though. Like Seth has been another big one that again, like I feel like he's kind of not mid-carded, but like it just hasn't been where it needed to be. I'm with you. Like I feel like you kind of have to pick Cody, but to go a little crazy here, people like the ones that have made an impact on me though would have been Drew. Drew did a really good job this last year of like carrying some storylines. I saw him on a lot of different lists as well too, for being top. Like he carried a ton. This is going to sound odd, but like I'm actually going to go with Dominic. I thought Dominic was involved in some really great stuff this year. I thought even like he's doing even like the offline, because somebody asked him, I don't know who it was, like, hey, like, what was it like growing up? And he's like, yeah, it was tough, like the mean streets of San Diego. Like I asked for BMW and my dad got me a Lexus. Like, it's just like he's such a great horseshit heel. And then also they were playing up just the different angles, like, the breaking, like Judgment Day and the people coming. Like he was more than like Rhea and Damien and all that stuff. Like he's been the focal point of a lot of that. You get the Liv stuff. Like if I had to pick, like Rhea's been great on the women's side, but so is Liv. Like I've really liked all of that storyline. I thought it's just been incredible. And so it's interesting too. I pulled up here as well. This was January 20th. 2024. So this was the beginning of the year, and ESPN came up with who's going to be the top stars of this year. So looking back and how accurate, they said Roman Reigns would be number 1, Cody Rhodes would be number 2. They had MJF at number 3. Interesting.
I mean, he hasn't done anything this year.
He's been in a real bad
filming a movie
right
and hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I'll tell you what, and I didn't fault him for signing with AEW again because he probably got paid really well and he probably thought, hey, I can keep improving my stock, and when I go to WWE, I'll be a bigger star. I get it, but man, and I'm not watching every week, so I could be wrong, but it feels to me like the shine is off of that guy. Like he potentially, when his stock was really high, should have made the move.
Yep.
All right, torture rack.
Here we go. He's got him up. Oh, but he fell because of the knee.
His leg buckled out from under him. His leg is buckled. Flair uses the rope, and Flair pins him.
And there it is. The cheating tactics. Yep.
Underneath him, as he had Flair in the human torture rack. And Flair, then the wise veteran, the 5-time champion of the world, used the ropes for leverage and secured the pinfall on the total package.
Wow.
Flair's like dead in the ring. Yeah, quick, but it makes sense. Yep.
Wow. That was a really good finish. It made sense.
Yep.
Pretty wild to end your show without the babyface winning, though.
Yeah.
And remember too, this is an era where people are paying 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, dollars. You can screw with fans now because it's like, look, I'm watching Peacock, right? I'm watching Netflix. Yep. I mean, it's free. So if my guy doesn't win, oh well. But it's like back in the day, hey, we're going to finish this show with, Steve Austin losing or Lex Luger, the big baby face, losing. Like, I mean, you got to be careful because you risk pissing your fans off. I mean, look at WWE in this era, right? So remember, Hogan always went over.
Yep.
Because, hey, we're charging $30 for this. Hogan must pose. And it wasn't a bad business practice. So, I don't know, man. I mean, obviously Flair, great champion, but I don't know if that's how you want to end your show. So, anyways, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, so what'd you think?
Great match. It really was.
Yeah.
They did a great job playing up the heel and face angles. They did a really good job of. It was just a great match. Like Luger kind of showing off his strength, and Flair being the heel and just being the dick is the best way to look at it. Like getting involved with the ref, using the chair, using the ropes. Like it all makes sense from a storyline perspective. Like I thought it was just really good. So
yeah, and I'm not making the comparison, but I kind of am, which is like this match a little bit felt Steamboat Savage, like the near falls and the nonstop. I like that style a lot. Where like there wasn't any big move, but it's just that consistent back and forth. And hey, this is a prize fight, and there's close pinfalls, and really, really good match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting into kind of what happened here in the aftermath, you had it was actually this kind of match where this part of the chapter, this start of the story came to an end, where it was Flair pinning Luger and using the ropes. And so Luger was then it took on Barry Windham at Chi-Town Rumble, winning actually the NWA U.S. Heavyweight Championship at that point from him. Teamed up with Michael Hayes for a bit against the Windhams. That was in kind of early March 1989. And so kind of a little back and forth there. You actually had Hayes beating Luger for the title Wrestle War 1989. That was the Music City Showdown. When you had Terry Gordy actually cost Luger the match on that one. Luger really did, getting DQ finishing, getting kind of pushed down here on this one, but he ended up actually winning the title back from Hayes. It was a rematch a couple weeks later, and getting that. And so then, of course, you get into the Luger Steamboat and them kind of those Guts and Glory in June and so of 1989. So stuff happening. Flair on the flip side, of course, he did take on Ricky Steamboat a little earlier than that at that Chi-Town Rumble. We've covered that match before. Go check it out. This is when they had their series of matches, though. The Family Man matches, Flair, the ladies' man, Steamboat, the Family Man, and kind of the 60-minute time limit, kind of doing all those. And so they had a bunch of different matches and ended up kind of with their May 7th, 1989 Wrestle War match that was 1989's match of the year. So really good stuff for both guys, kind of continuing. It was interesting. I did manage to find the torch actually. When you get in these like late 80s, that's when they started. There's not a whole lot, but Flair pinned Luger in 31 to retain the title. There was not the magic in this bout that existed at the Baltimore Bash in July. The first 15 minutes did nothing for me. The ending was very appropriate, except the rope for leverage part was not necessary and didn't matter. To Luger's credit, he got the fans on his side by the match's end. So no stars or anything like that. Just a quick write up from the torch. But what are you thinking on this one?
I'll give this a 6.5. I thought it was a really good match. Where I'm a little lower on this is, it's your biggest show and it's your main event. So like, this is it, right? This is your Hogan Andre, your Savage DiBiase, your Hogan Savage, right? I mean, I'm comparing apples to apples. I'm taking the biggest match on the biggest show of your competitor. So if I stack this up with Hogan Andre, I mean, we're not even in the same league here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I looked at that card and would have done anything differently, but like when you hold it up to that, you're like, good match, but the atmosphere and the finish and nothing else. So 6.5 for me. What about you?
Yeah, I was at a 6. Yeah, I said, I thought it was a good match. Like, I'm not really comparing it to any of their other matches because I just don't have the kind of knowledge base to do that. But I think overall, though, like, it was a good match. Like, they did go 30 minutes. It was all action. There wasn't like, there were some rest holds, but not a ton. But it still was, it was perfectly fine. Like, if you want to watch a good technical wrestling match, like, there's better out there. But this was still a good match between two big men that, that kind of how it worked out. So yeah, I was, I wasn't unhappy with it. It was still good. So, but all right, with that, last of 2024. Are you feeling good? Start the year 2025.
Yeah, I'm excited for 2025. I'm excited for our next match on here. Another 52 matches next year coming at you in 2025. So we appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.